Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and today I'm joined by Alex McCarthy from Wrestle Talk. Sorry, my apologies. Talk Sport. How you doing today, Alex?
I'm good. I thought I'd change jobs for a second. You got me switching.
That's my apologies. My apologies. Anyway, how you doing today?
I'm good, thank you, man. I'm really good. Just a busy week at work, and I've got some stuff at the weekend with UFC, and then just sorting my kids out. Just had a little play with my kids in the park. So nice to be able to do that again after all this lockdown. So yeah, I'm good, man.
So, as a parent, I would like down for you.
Yeah, not the easiest. Obviously the schools and nurseries and stuff have been shut down, so it's just been 24/7 children. What a delight! But yeah, with the lights at the end of the tunnel, my man. It's a joy.
As I said, you do work for Talk Sport. So, why don't you can you explain to the people exactly what you do for Talk Sport?
Of course. So I am the US sports editor. That's my title for TalkSport. So basically, I cover wrestling, UFC, boxing, NBA, whatever. All of those sports kind of fall under my remit. And I have a show on TalkSport 2 called Talk Wrestling, where you'll hear me interviewing wrestlers from WWE, AEW, and places like that. And yeah, it's been great, really. I've been there just over a year and a half, and yeah, the wrestling side of things has really taken off for us. So it's great. It's great to. I didn't even think that I could do a job in wrestling years ago, let alone there be one. So it's great. It's great.
Just to clear up, that's what I was trying to say earlier. Talk wrestling. Anyway, yeah. So you obviously, as you just said, you interviewed WWE superstar, AEW superstars. So
yeah.
if you had to name one interview that people should check out, that sums up your work, what interview would you say?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think Triple H is probably my best or most notable. The thing that people kind of recognize me for. I spoke to him before NXT UK takeover in Cardiff last August. So yeah, coming up right up on a year, basically. And that's kind of, I think, what got my name out there a little bit was sitting down with Triple H, because he was so giving, and not many people get half an hour with Triple H just to sit and talk. So I think that was definitely one that made a lot of headlines, and people, even now on my YouTube channel, it's the most viewed interview and stuff. So I think, yeah, in terms of my favorite, because it did well, but also who it was with. Do you know what I mean? Like, he is a legend. So it was very cool on all levels.
By going off what you said, I'm assuming growing up you were a big Triple H fan.
I mean, who isn't?
Yeah. So do you know you interviewed with WWE specifically, are they part of the media call and you just edit them together? Or are they exclusive one-on-one interviews?
So it's a mixture, mate. It's a mixture. So, for instance, the other day I had Big E from the New Day, and that was alongside two other journalists from other outlets. Because obviously, at the moment, the way the world has been, everything is done on Zoom, basically. So, that day with Triple H, it was a one-on-one exclusive, but sometimes on Zoom you'll be sharing them, or it'll be like a conference call. But even so, since I got my radio show, in terms of like availability, I think WWE and AEW do normally give me one-on-ones. So you can get a one-on-one, but that's not to say you're the only person that will get that one-on-one. So I suppose the word exclusive is banded around. But I think, if you're speaking to them on your own and you get news out of it, I think it's fine to say it's an exclusive.
There's nothing wrong with hyping yourself up.
Say that again?
I said there's nothing wrong with hyping yourself up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm going to be... Every chance I get, I'm going to do that. Don't worry about that.
Speaking of AEW, I'm waiting on the response from their team to interview some of their guys. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that.
I'll try and hook you up.
Thank you, Matt. As I say, I have already contacted them, so I'm just waiting for a response now, to be honest.
To be fair, they're ignoring me at the moment. After Jimmy Havoc got released,
Yeah, I can imagine.
I'd sent them an email and stuff, and they've just left me for 10 days, no response. So I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, to be honest, with certain things like that, you can't really blame them for not wanting to reveal anything right now, because they probably don't know what to say to people right now regarding that situation.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And I think that's the thing, like, with those situations. So for me, as a journalist, I always think I want to approach those things delicately. Like I said, sources had told me, but it's a man's life we're talking about here who's going through something, and he's apparently just been in rehab, and you don't want to just be putting stories out there that aren't official. So really, I think your duty is to reach out to the company and get an official comment. But when I didn't get one, I didn't just run the story anyway, because I just feel like that's pretty careless. So I think, in this day and age, you do have to consider the ramifications of running stories, because I think in the past, there are a lot of examples of where journalists think about the clicks first, and I don't think that should ever be the way.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. Because if you keep a good relationship with them, it can benefit you down the line in whatever way you want to, basically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if they know you're a good journalist, they're gonna give you like exclusive stories and exclusive interviews to run. You know.
That's definitely a part of it. And I think I've been doing this for maybe 3 or 4 years now, and I've definitely built up a relationship with like WWE and AEW. Everything has been cool so far, and the same thing. Like I've done interviews with like Young Bucks, Cody, and they after the interview they might say, actually, we'd rather maybe tweak what we said, or we don't necessarily want you to run that because it's it comes off as inflammatory, or people would interpret it in a different way than they meant, and you don't ever want that to come across. You want everyone to be happy with what you're putting out. So I think a collaboration is always the process, and keeping a good relationship. You've probably seen it on Twitter. You get some fans that are like, oh, you just love this company, you just love that company, but I love wrestling, so it's not a case of I'm trying to be some kind of guy that's going to break some, make anyone look bad or anything. That's not really the goal. You can't bury your head in the sand, but at the same time, really, it's about keeping those relationships and, putting out this content.
I know exactly what you're saying, like some fans, because I made it no secret that I'm trying to work with companies like AEW and WWE. I made it quite clear that's what I'm trying to do, yeah. And then you get long time followers giving you shit for it, basically. So it's all about doing the right thing by business, rather than trying to keep people happy.
Yeah.
Because you're never gonna keep everybody happy, are you?
No, you're telling me. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I feel like sometimes you want to answer everyone on Twitter, and you want to go like, no, but you just go down a dark alley sometimes, because a lot of the people that criticize don't want to have an honest conversation. They just want to criticize and troll. So, when I'm working for TalkSport, right? Ultimately, the bottom line is stuff for WWE and AEW will perform better for the company because they're the biggest promotions in the world. That's just facts, unfortunately. That doesn't mean I don't like Impact or check out what's going on in New Japan, but you have to know your audience as a journalist and who you're catering to. So when people will be like, "Oh, you just love them companies," it's like, well, yeah, but there's reasons and logic.
I completely understand where you're coming from. Like the other way, I reached out to Jimmy Jacobs that's working with Impact, yeah, and I didn't expect him to be so forthcoming. I expected him to respond to me in a couple of weeks, as you normally expect him. But he responded to me that day and that night. He came on. So it's all it's all about playing the business game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And like you said, it's you take the chances where they come, and make the best of the content that you get. But as you said earlier, keeping those good relations stands you in good stead to do more and more of that and get better and better. I've got a question for you. Is that all right? Can we?
Yeah, no worries.
Let me flip the script quickly. You're good. You're good at interviewing. You're very conversational, Tone. How long have you been doing this, and what made you want to do it?
Basically, I've always liked interviewers. Like, I remember back in the day, I used to love watching people interview people. And to be honest, a lot of times you can get these interviewers that are just trying to trip people up and put people into corners and trying to make them say stuff just to make the interview get more headlines. And I don't like that sort of interviewing. I prefer to have a conversation like we are doing now.
Yeah.
And I just like to see where it goes.
Yeah, a nice organic chat. I think that's the best principle of nearly any interviewing tactic. And the thing is, like you just said, I almost get uncomfortable when you watch and this is more, you get it today in like politics and like those kind of interviews and stuff, and they're just aggressive and trying to back people into corners. And I've never really kind of understood that. I think as a fan of wrestling as well, or whatever sport it is, who you talk to and what you cover. I think it always just, if you're a fan of it, then you don't want to demonize it or demean it if you can help it anyway. So, normally when I approach a wrestler, I'm thinking from a fan perspective anyway. And I'm like, that was cool. Tell me more about what went into that and whose idea it was. And they're the things that I like to know more than, you messed up that spot. What was all that about or anything like that?
When it comes to questions like that, I always find them questions really weird when some people ask that, because it's not like I can do any better.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, mate, when I was at the gym the other day and I struggled to jog, so I was like, let alone be a top class athlete. God.
So, obviously, you've been working with them for a good couple of years now. So, how did you get into sport? Did you just apply like everybody else does?
No, it was quite the opposite. I was working for a company called Give Me Sport at the time, who I think they've got like 26 million followers on Facebook. That's their thing, like social, as it were. So I was working for them as first of all an NBA writer, then a US writer, and then I kind of eventually wormed my way into writing about wrestling. I just kept nagging basically. And then when the numbers were coming in good, they were like, well, you should just lead WWE for us, be our WWE editor. So that was like the first step. That was in about 2017, about halfway through that. And at the same time, I was making good relationships with WWE, 2K, who were releasing a lot of the games at the time. So I got some opportunities to go to WrestleMania, SummerSlam, things that as a fan I hadn't even done. And then all of a sudden it's part of my job to go to WrestleMania. So yeah, it was just super cool. And I did that for Give Me Sport. And then when I went to my second WrestleMania in New Orleans, so that was 34, I met a couple of guys from TalkSport that had their own. Funnily enough, my co-host now on Talk Wrestling, Will Gavin, was one of them. And then a few months after that, one of the guys I'd been on the trip with, who actually worked for The Sun, this is where it gets complex. So The Sun and TalkSport were owned by the same company. And so he knew the boss of TalkSport, and they were looking to expand their website, and they didn't cover any WWE at all. And so he basically put my name forward. TalkSport approached me. So I didn't even know any of this was happening until they approached me. And then, we worked something out, and then I started a few months later. So for the wrestling content before I joined, in 2018, I think they had 30,000 clicks overall. And in that first year, we've just, given it a lot of attention and writing about it every day. We had like 13, 14 million. So it was just insane, like the growth. And yeah, man, it's just been, like I said, everything's fallen into place. I never thought I would have a show on TalkSport. I didn't even aim to have a show. It's just happened, and it's great that it has. I'm so happy with it.
Like you obviously watch. I assume you watch most WWE and AEW programming, so you can keep up to date. So, what do you think? What is your favourite storyline that they're running right now in either company?
Ooh, you know what? It's hard across both of them because I've got a couple of favourites. So in AEW, I really, really like the slow burn they're doing with Adam Page and Kenny Omega. Very, very much into that. I think we might get something close to the cleaner Kenny Omega, and I think Page will be a big baby face. I also very much like MJF. I'm a big fan of his. He's just a really classic heel that I like to watch. And him and Moxley, I think, the build to that with the campaign and stuff has been really good. In WWE, I think Randy Orton's on fire at the moment. So anything that is attached to him, I'm interested in. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Sasha Banks and Bayley, because I just feel like they've been on top of their game. And although I have no idea when we get in there, when we do and we get that Sasha Banks and Bayley match, man, it's going to be great.
My personal feeling is it'll be at Mania, or when crowds can combat properly.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that's the reason they haven't pulled the trigger on it for SummerSlam. Because you would have thought it was building that way, and now they've kind of gone in different directions. So I think you're right. Either Royal Rumble maybe, but I think, because I've spoken to Sasha and Bayley before, and this is before, funnily enough, in New Orleans, and they were meant to be on the card then, but then they were put in the first ever women's battle royal. I don't know if you remember. And people have been asking that, people wanted them to face each other, but it didn't quite happen. And they both said the thing about being on WrestleMania is there's like 1 million matches. So it's hard to get the amount of time that their story would deserve.
With that on the pre-show, I'm pretty sure that was on the pre-show, wasn't it? Or wasn't it the opener to that Mania? I don't remember, but
I think it was the pre-show.
That's really sad how they couldn't put it on the main card.
But
going back to the storyline, my favourite storyline in AEW right now, it's a bit of a weird storyline, but I like, do you know the Scorpio Sky storyline? I don't know when we watch AEW Dark, but you know Scorpio Sky, they're really trying to build him up as a strong mid-carder.
I thought he was actually going to beat Cody. I'm not going to lie. I thought he was going to win it this Wednesday.
I really thought he was going to throw like properly heel and get like a cheap win.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like SCU started real strong in AEW. Obviously, first tag team champs, and Scorpio Sky was being showcased pretty well. Remember when Jericho was champ, and there was like a little bit of stuff going on there. But he's kind of, obviously they've been out of for whatever reasons, probably COVID related, they've been away from the company. But now Scorpio Sky's back. I think you speak to anyone in AEW and beyond, really, everyone sees a ton of upside in Scorpio Sky. And I think like I said, I was surprised that he didn't beat Cody this week, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was the guy who eventually did so.
Yeah, you probably have heard these rumours, but there's rumours that they're planning to do like a 4 horseman thing with Cody and FTR and Sean Spears and people like that. What do you think about things like that?
I mean, so I spoke to Cody about this a few weeks ago, and we both agreed, like, to replicate the 4 horsemen, that's an uphill climb, isn't it? Like, that's tough. You're setting yourself up there to disappoint. But at the same time, you know, FTR make the world of sense, given their kind of heritage and their loves in the business. We've got Tully there. We've got Arn there. You know, we've got the components of, you know, the right guys in the right mix. And Cody, I think, would be a great leader. And I think he is probably ripe for a heel turn in many eyes. I actually love him as a babyface, but I could see it, is what I'm saying. And I think Sean Spears showing a more serious demeanour in recent weeks is needed, because I don't think he's made the impression he might have liked since he moved from WWE. So I think it could work for all parties, but just attaching the 4 horsemen name to it is, that's a tough one.
Obviously, I don't want to put him in an awkward position, but I personally feel Sean Spears has been wasted in AEW, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just about on the same level as WWE stuff so far. So hopefully he can get something more meaty on the bones. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I certainly do. I think that's the thing, like you said, when he had that first feud with Cody, and, you know, and he, like, hit him with that chair shot and everyone was like, whoa. I think that was like, you know, he had a bit of buzz and people were interested. But since then, he's just been booked in like nothing. He hasn't really featured anywhere. I mean, Double or Nothing, he had that kind of a joke match with Dustin Rhodes. I was about to call him Gold Dust. I totally agree with
you. I couldn't hear you for a minute there. You might need to say that.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
My apologies. Well, I was just saying that I think since the Dustin Rhodes thing, they haven't really explored what he can do in the company.
I personally believe Cody would be an amazing final villain for the mid card, if you know what I mean. I don't know if you play video games.
I do.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you know when you get to the end of the game and you have like the final boss. I think Cody will be good in that sort of role.
Yeah, I think Cody was red. While the crowds were still there, Cody was like red hot. And I thought it didn't make much sense to do what he did with the, you know, when he booked himself out of being able to be the champion, basically. And he lost to Jericho and he couldn't then compete again. And it was just like, it was a bit deflating. Because I would have liked to have seen him as a red-hot babyface champion. But in lieu of that, I totally agree with you that he can be a great gateway for people to the main event. He can be that last obstacle before reaching the top.
And either as a heel or as a babyface. Can you be the babyface after the match? You can put them over on the mic. And obviously, if he's a heel, just beating Cody Rhodes is still quite an accomplishment.
That's a big deal. It's a big deal. And that's the thing with Cody, like, and I think they've looked at Kenny Omega in the same light. It's like they don't need the main title, but by the same token, like, you know, because we already know how good they are, but I think there's still a good portion of us that would like to see them win that gold. But, you know, I say all that to say this. AEW have made good decisions with who they have the belts on at the moment. Jericho was a great first champion. Moxley has been a good follow-up champion who has had to do it in difficult circumstances. So I think it's one of them things where there's a lot of different things that they can explore with the characters. And I think Cody has definitely got a lot more room to grow.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. But with Kenny Omega, my concern is, yes, we know how good he is, but to the local audience that might not know about New Japan, I don't think they've got to know him that well yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's totally fair to say. I mean, like you said, he was a part of that amazing tag team match at Revolution with the Bucks and Page, and he's put on a few performances with Pac and Moxley that have shown people what he can do. But as you and I know, that's still not what he was doing in Japan. You know, the clinics he was putting on there with, you know, Naito and Okada and whoever else you want to name. So I think a lot of people kind of want that Kenny Omega back, who's going to like go for an hour in the main event of the title and all of that stuff. And I think we'll get there. I think this is just a part of them playing their role, trying to build other people. And rightly or wrongly, Kenny Omega feels like he needs to help people get there along the way. And, you know, to be fair, I at the moment, it's hard for me to criticise it because I feel like when fans return, hopefully Kenny Omega takes on a character shift that will give us those matches that we want, and people will have to, you know, admire the talent that he has, because it is, you know, it's been underappreciated in North America and for too long.
But the one thing I don't want was Kenny to turn heel. I want him to be by himself. I don't want to see the Young Bucks there and Kenny by themselves together, because we've already seen that. I want to see him by himself, if you know what I mean, as a real lone wolf, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So would you like to see him with the Young Bucks, or would you like to see him by himself as a heel?
I mean, I think it's interesting for all of the elite to kind of do their own thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, especially if Kenny turns heel, is there any really need for him to be aligned with the babyface Young Bucks? No, there isn't. So, yeah, I'd like to see him just become this absolute wrestling machine. I'd love that. The same as if, you know, I like the idea of Cody leading a new Four Horsemen, but I'd like the elite to kind of just do their own things. And I think when Adam Page becomes the huge babyface off the back of Kenny going heel, probably, again, standing on their own 2 feet, there's a lot of different things I'd like to see like that. But yes, Kenny, more to your point, he's always been in groups for the last however many years. So I think the time is ripe, I think is what I would say.
Speaking of, if they do the group with Cody and FTR, and let's just say Sean Spears, for example, I don't really want Ireland and Tony Blanchard to be there. I just don't think they need mouthpieces, to be honest.
Yeah. No, well, Cody's an amazing talker.
Yeah, of course.
So I don't think I get it, like the heritage because of their links to the Four Horsemen and stuff. But it would actually be more impactful if when they created the group, they attacked them too, and they said, "Look, you're old, we're the new." That would be, and that's a good way to make a decisive cut.
Because otherwise, it just looked a bit weird. As they're going to talk about the future, and then still got like these veterans beside them, if you know what I mean. It would just look a bit weird.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like, you don't start a group and be like, "Hey, this is the new power group," and it's like, "Oh, actually, hang on a minute. These are the the pensioners that are going to talk for us." Like, I don't know, not for me.
Like, for example, I would love to see Tony Blanchard, legislative if Tessa Blanchard does go there, that's been rumoured, I would love to see her. I would love to see his daughter, because I think that could be an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, there's a million things you could do with that, right? You know, in terms of people trying to get to Tessa through him and vice versa. I think the chances of Tessa being in AEW are. So from what I hear, Tony Khan's not a big fan, right? I don't think that's got anything to do with her talent. It's the character, and as in her real life character. Yeah. Obviously, there's been a lot of allegations of bullying and racism and things of that nature. But when I spoke to Cody and I've spoken to other people, you don't forget she worked with them on All In. They like her. They've got a good working relationship with her. But ultimately, it is Tony Khan who makes those decisions. So it's a tough one. It's not that I don't see it as impossible, but it's difficult to see her in AEW.
To be honest, I think there's more of a chance of her being in AEW than WWE. I don't think WWE would touch her with a bar pro, to be honest, because of the attitude.
Yeah, and it's like yes and no, because morally, I would say WWE would morally. That's hard for me. I was about to say something that probably isn't true. I was about to say WWE might morally check themselves at the door and take a chance on the talent more than AEW would. Historically, WWE certainly would. But looking at it now, it's probably a different landscape. I know that she has supporters. The Charlotte Flair Tessa Blanchard match is there. It's there and it's got money. I think WWE would like to explore that. And I know that she has some supporters in WWE, but at the same time, just like AEW, she's got some detractors. So she's in a tough spot wherever she wants to land. But her alternatives really at this point are go to Stardom in Japan maybe, or wrestle in Mexico where her fiance lives, or husband now, I think.
Yeah.
So, it's, if she's going to have to extend the olive branch probably and show everyone that she's willing and is going to be a team player if she wants to land one of the big two.
To be honest, at the end of the day, it's up to her. It's up to her, isn't it? If her career doesn't work out the way she wants to, she's got nobody to blame but herself.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it, because you and I both know talent isn't the problem. She's more than capable and has more than enough ability to thrive in either of those companies. It's just a case of she has these black marks against her and her character. And people in WWE and AEW, like Isla Dawn, for instance, in NXT UK, they've all spoken out against her. It's not like a he said, she said. There's a lot of women who have spoken about her. So she needs to truly, like you said, it's down to her. She needs to prove that she's willing and she can grow, because she is young, which is fair. She's only in her early to mid-20s.
I believe she's about the same age as me, like 24, 25, somewhere like that age.
Yes, I think she is 24. I think you're right.
Yeah. Anyway, I just think whatever happens with her, it will be either a making of it or it will be a downfall.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, right? Like I said, she has time, but at the same moment, she made great history earlier this year with becoming the first ever kind of female male world champion, major North American promotion, and with that, comes a wave of momentum, and her reputation was sky high, and people want to see matches and stuff. And all due respect to Impact, for a while, people have been like, what's Tessa Blanchard going to do next? Because it's clear she's probably the best woman, arguably, in the world, certainly in America, outside of AEW and WWE. So people want to see her. But the way all of this has gone down just hasn't reflected well. So I'm not sure how she does it or what she has to prove. Maybe she has to go somewhere else to prove it first. But she does need to show that she can be worked with. And to be fair, that should be a minimum requirement if you want to make the big bucks and be in big business.
I would just feel, because her dad worked there, yeah. Couldn't he just say to her, look, you need to be smart here because there's not many companies that are, like, you know what I mean? Like a dad could talk to her and basically try, basically, what I'm saying, if somebody could speak to her and just let her know, you're really damaging your reputation. Maybe that could do something.
Yeah, well, absolutely. She needs to be getting good advice. And as far as I know, her and her dad have a good relationship. And, you know, it's one of those things where it's not inconceivable that Tully could talk to Tony Khan and, you know, things could be worked out and he could convince him and, you know, there could be a kind of agreement. I think you're right. What's an interesting thing about that is Tully was blackballed from WCW and WWE in kind of like 89, 90 because of he left basically WWE to get a better deal with WCW. But then he failed a drug test on his way out. And as a result, WCW retracted his offer and then he couldn't work for either of the biggest promotions because neither would take him. So he knows better than anyone what it's like to not be able to work for the two big boys. And I'm sure he'll be imploring his daughter to not waste this opportunity.
Yeah, like, obviously we've heard Impact side, but I can't wait to hear the side on the old Impact thing because he did it the way that they worded it, they made it look really bad. So I'm just waiting to hear her. I'm just waiting to hear what she got to say as a response to that.
Yeah, I mean, she's going to be a great podcast host for someone. Probably Jericho. Everyone goes to Jericho. But I mean, the thing about that departure, you know, and they've made out that she was holding them up for money, and you know, she wanted. I don't even remember the amount now. Is it maybe $250,000 for the title?
I think like $153,000 or it's a bit weird like that.
Yeah, so she wanted that just to return the title, and they were asking her to do promos for this Slammiversary match that actually fell outside of her contract. So of course she didn't want to do it. And to be fair, what's in it for her to promote a match that she knows she's not going to do? I get that. But at the same time, she was under contract. So if you want to earn your money, you've got to do what they say. There's like you said, there's two sides to the coin. And I bet there's a lot of nuance and context that none of us know. So it'd be very interesting for her to divulge that eventually.
I don't know what as I said the other week I had Jimmy Jacobs and I was going to slightly approach it, but then I thought it's really worth it because at the end of the day, he does still work for Impact, so I don't want to get him in any hot water.
Yeah, and that's it. That's what I mean. You have to think sometimes, am I going to tread on toes? So, yeah, probably a wise decision on your part.
Because I'm sure, knowing Jimmy Jacobs, he probably would have gave a very good PR response. But yeah. As you say, you don't want to step on anybody's toe. Because there's a lot of people from Impact I would love to talk to.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you watch Impact, but what do you think of their roster and what you've seen?
Yeah, I've paid more attention to Impact over the past sort of 18 months to 2 years. I, like many, was a big fan of TNA maybe like a decade ago when they, the roster they had was unbelievable when you look back on it. So I kind of fell out of it though about 5 years ago, and I think most people would agree that their name suffered a lot because the product they put on and the way Dixie Carter in particular was treating the talent, it just didn't, people weren't getting paid on time and it just became a shambles. So I think they've done incredibly well to rebuild their name and their brand. I like a lot of their pickups. Gallows and Anderson, I think, have that really cool feel to themselves at the moment. Almost, I saw someone the other day say like Kevin Nash, Scott Hall vibes. That's kind of, I can feel that, that they have that air of coolness and swagger about them. Obviously, the women's division in Impact is just stacked. And I think Gianna Perazzo has been a great addition to that. But, you know, you can look, there's literally like 6-7 names there that you could say are world title caliber and are excellent. Motor City Machine Guns coming back. You know, you got the North. Yeah, even I loved Eric Young and Willie Mack this week. Like this, I could go on and on. Yeah, in fact, it was cool seeing Brian Myers in the main event of a show. So there's so much going on with Impact, and I feel like they've picked up a lot of talent that it's one way to perceive them what you saw them in WWE, but they've got a lot more to them. And I think the one thing I do like about Impact is that they've got an edgier content than most. And that kind of speaks to me because when I was a fan, Attitude Era, turn of the millennium, that's the kind of wrestling I liked. So, yeah, I think they're going in the right direction.
I can relate to Impact in terms of they're trying to build something on the ground up, and that's something I can relate to with my YouTube channel, with my podcast, and I just think a lot of their talent are underrated just because they work in Impact. I guarantee that if Donna Perazzo was doing the thing that she's doing in AEW, people would be raving about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny you just said that. I was saying the other day to someone, Gianna Perazzo, what she's doing now isn't a million miles away from the virtuoso character she had in NXT, but WWE just did not use her. And she was almost punished for wanting to be better, which makes no sense. You know, she said it herself that she would pitch things constantly and, you know, she wanted to do technical wrestling and you know, and be that character. And Impact have let her flourish like that. And I guarantee you, in a year or two from now, WWE, AEW for sure. I mean, they need more top class women, but AEW for sure. And WWE will come crawling back because she's looking like the best technical wrestler, you know, best technical female wrestler in the world at the moment. And like you just said, if she was doing this on a bigger platform, people would be raving about her.
To be honest, I think her being released from WWE made her a bigger star because before she was released from WWE, I obviously knew she was, but because we didn't get to see her on NXT every week doing her thing, I didn't understand how good she is. But watching that in Impact, I suddenly realised how good she was, and I watched some of her matches on the Indies before she went to WWE after the fact, and she'd always been amazing in the ring.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I retrospectively almost
Yeah.
saw some of her Ring of Honor work really good, and but like you said, you didn't really get to see or appreciate that in WWE, and I think being able to see her, you know, the match with Jordan Grace at Slammiversary is a great match, and these wrestlers, there's a lot of them who are in these companies and you don't really get to see what they can do. Another example, who I didn't really know was as good as they could be, was Penelope Ford. And then she had that match with Shida, I believe, Double or Nothing. And I was like, whoa, like Penelope Ford can go. So, you know, there's a lot of women who just need that chance. But for me, the character of Gianna Perazzo and the in-ring work, that's my jam. That's right up my street. So I'm loving seeing her flourish.
To be honest, when I first saw Penelope Ford, my first reaction was she's only going to be of her age. She's not really going to do anything.
Yeah.
In the ring, but as soon as I saw that in the ring, properly wrestling, I was saying, no, she's actually quite good.
Yeah, exactly it. Look, I really didn't know what to expect from her. With all due respect, and this sounds awful, I just thought she was really, you know, the valet for Kip Sabian. I thought he was the main attraction of the pair. And then seeing her get in the ring, I was like, no, like, you know, there's something here. That match was in my book, like, top drawer with Shida. And Penelope Ford was able to actually unload her arsenal for the first time in her AEW career for sure. And, probably the biggest stage, and she delivered. So I'd like to see that expanded upon, because AEW, I think there are many factors like travel during COVID and injuries when you look at Statlander and Baker. But their women really need a sustained core to their division, and it just seems they haven't had the right breaks there yet.
I just think the whole division needs to be not restarted, but needs a makeover, to be honest. Because I think the title bout itself looked a bit too small, to be honest.
Yes, I agree.
I understand why they made it, because the first champion was Rio, wasn't it? And it would have looked really silly on Rio. Cause, to be fair to her, she's only a small woman anyway, so it would not have looked very good. But as soon as Nyla Rose won the belt, she got a bigger belt.
Yeah, exactly. Like role reversal straight away.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I agree. Like, I think they had some, or they have some components of a good women's division, but they just have no, there's no body to it. Do you know what I mean? They've just got there's some talent there, but they haven't really fleshed it out or developed any stories. And really, that they did promise that from the jump. So I'm a little disappointed. I understand that, the aforementioned factors that I talked about, but man, I think even they would admit that they're disappointed with how it's turned out thus far.
To be honest, I think the first champion should have been somebody that was there every single week on TV. Obviously, no offense to Rio, but she wasn't there every week once she was committed to Japan, and that's fine. But when you're having a world women's champion, they need to be on the show every single week, in my opinion. Doing something.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I I know Bea Priestley, we think she's gone now, but that was on a similar deal. And Yuka Sakazaki, I'm a huge fan of hers from Stardom. And that's the same. You don't see them consistently. And I guess a lot of that is to do with Kenny Omega and his kind of booking and whatnot of the women's division. But like you said, they just need that core and that base that they can rely on. Because you can't treat them like they're like Brock Lesnar. It doesn't have the same effect.
No, let's be fair to an American audience, unless you actually go onto Stardom's streaming service. You don't know who they are for the most part, unless you do your research.
Yeah, to be fair, I hadn't really seen much of Sakazaki before her debut at Double or Nothing the first time. Because I went to that. I went to their first show in Vegas. And, I was just super impressed. And then again, you retrospectively look at what they've done. And I think, weirdly enough, WWE are doing that on the network now. I don't know if you've seen that, but they're putting up shows from press and they're basically just trying to show what a lot of their stars now have done then. So I get it. But like you just said, I think AEW are trying to build almost a cult following, which is fine. Like ECW had that too. But like you said, if you want to expand the North American market, then you need more from the likes of Kenny Omega. You need a big woman star. There's a lot to flesh out.
And you also need to explain who these people are, because I think sometimes they can rely on people just knowing who they are. And for some people like me and you, that might work. But for somebody like Dave down the road that might be turning on AEW for the first time, they need to explain who some of these people are.
To Dave down the road.
You know what I mean? They need to explain at least what their history is and who they are and why they matter.
Yeah, I mean, especially for someone like Rio or and Shida, explain their heritage and their incredible body of work in Japan and why they're so esteemed, and why like Japanese wrestling is held in such high regard. And I think the AEW have kind of opened the doors to the outer world with like Eddie Kingston and Ricky Starks, like people coming in from other promotions. But like you said, it's okay to have that cool factor one week and to put them in the spot to wrestle, but you have to help people get to know them. And that is something that WWE historically have done well, maybe not so much these days, but they used to be able to give you a reason to care about who you're watching.
And I know people are going to argue and say, well, they got to be in the elite, they got dark. But you should love to watch every single program that somebody puts out just to know who they are.
Yeah, exactly that. Like, that's a lot to, but even that, like, it's a lot to follow to put the time aside to like YouTube, all of that, and Dynamite. And apparently they're going to be getting a second show on TNT. So there's a lot going on.
Obviously, I am a fan of AEW, but I do have a lot of constructive criticism that I think somebody needs to put to them in a constructive way, and not just say this is. Because I think a lot of times, as fans, we can say that it's crap, and not really explain why we think it's crap. I actually try to articulate why we think it's not good.
Yeah, well, that's Twitter in a nutshell. What you've just said.
Yeah.
This is awful. This is crap. WWE is awful. And there's people like that. There's YouTubers who kind of make a living off of crapping on WWE, and it's a shame, really, that you would do that. But I do agree that, as I said, I feel like AEW would be the first to admit that what they envisaged the women's division being a year ago to what it is now is not what they planned. I think even they would say that. And it's a shame because people like the Young Bucks and Brandy have had to come off Twitter because, people were just nasty. And that's not the wrestling community that I love. And that's not the wrestling community that I try to purport.
And I'm not going to say this person's name here because we are boys here. But this one person in particular, when they came off of social media, the first thing they tweeted out here, when you can't handle criticism, that's like what I know about Twitter. I guarantee half of the replies were just either racism in terms of brandy or just being straight out dickheads about it. I hope you don't mind.
I mean, the thing is, and funnily enough, Sean Ross Sapp, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that he told me was, if they don't know you personally, don't take it personal. And that's very hard to implement because trust me, sometimes I get it. Like obviously not on the level that AEW do or Brandy or anyone did, but I'll get people saying what I'm reporting is rubbish or my work or anything like that. And you kind of just have to take it in stride. And, you look at them and they don't have if someone doesn't even have their face as a profile picture, that's normally a bad start. They're trying to, if they're hiding behind something and you look at their timeline, it's just full of hate. You just have to kind of block it out and move on. But at the same time, like you said, we want to have these conversations, like you said, about having constructive criticism and being able to give our opinions about our passion. That should be fine, but you should be able to do that in good faith, do that sincerely, and do it with some respect, because that's how I operate. Like, I'll give you respect, and if you give it to me in return, then everything's going to be fine.
That's why I would love to get. I'm not sure he would be willing to come on, but that's why I would love to get somebody from AEW on the show, so I can basically tell them what I think, and then they can respond in a sensible manner, and we can have a sensible conversation about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like you said, sensible is the word, because that is what is lacking far too often with fans on Twitter who either have an agenda or like they just don't like something or somebody, and you're not going to change their mind, and it just becomes toxic. So I love nothing more than discussing my wrestling feelings and hearing other people out. And like I said, let's see. Let's hope you can get that Zoom call that you desire.
Like, because I think if I get him on the platform to basically explain why they do certain things, I think it might help some fans gain their thing. Obviously, with some fans, they're still going to think what they think, and that's fine. But as long as I can change one person's mind, or make one person think like what they say, that's all my goal is.
Yeah. And to be fair, like, there's no reason why you can't. You seem to have a sensible way of talking, so why not? You know, like I said, the more I keep thinking about the word sensible because you've got it into my brain now. But the more you know, caring and sincere, that's the word that keeps coming as well. Like, the more we can have those talks about anything, then the better.
Like, you know, the AEW hero thing, yeah, I do think it was really overpriced. But I'm not going to go overboard like some people are. I just think it should be like 35 maximum. And I know some people are going to say that's a bit much. But for what they're giving you, you are getting a lot of content.
Yeah, and that's, like you said, we were saying this earlier, right? AEW really spread their content around, and there's a lot of it to digest. But in terms of the pay-per-views, if we're just talking about what they're worth, right? I haven't seen a bad AEW pay-per-view yet. Like, not, and I'm not saying, you know, I haven't even seen a subpar one. They're all really, really good. And Moxley was telling me after Double or Nothing, you know, we were doing like one of these conference calls, and he was saying that everyone in AEW, because they only have like 4-5 a year, they take it so seriously. It's like everyone is like WrestleMania to them. So, and that's, to me, that's not just a soundbite. But watching it, I can feel it, and that's, you know, like I said, I'm really excited for All Out, but I thought Double or Nothing was just a fantastic show.
I think every single AEW pay-per-view has been worth the price of the show. Because obviously with WWE, yeah, because it's on the network, sometimes I feel like not only the company don't. Let me be careful how I word this. I think when you have so many shows a year and so many TVs a year, sometimes you can become complacent.
Yeah.
You know, is that a fair comment?
Yeah, I think absolutely is. You know, sometimes when the product would be, they've got this show in Saudi Arabia, and then it's like there's another pay-per-view the week after or 2 weeks, and you're like, it's a bit weird. And then we're hearing at the moment that they're going to do Payback the week after SummerSlam. So it's like, that's a lot. Like, why can't you just concentrate on good TV building to the SummerSlam, like, or, you know, or to even the next pay-per-view? So I think with WWE in particular, a lot of their matchups and a lot of these pay-per-views, you can just tell are stalling until the next one. And that's what's really, you know, that sucks. I don't want to watch a match that I can telegraph a mile away. And the thing with AEW, it's like they have a destination they're getting to. And because NXT is a bit like this too, because they don't have as many pay-per-views, the build and when you eventually get to the pay-per-view feel much better than main roster WWE.
Normally I would agree with you, but right now I'm not really enjoying the carrying cross Keith Lee thing, because I think they should have given Keith Lee 1 or 2 months as dominant champion before they had carrying cross beating for the belt. Because it's quite obvious, carrying cross, it's not going to lose the belt. It's not going to lose to Keith Lee after they've spent all this time building him up and really developing his dominating character.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. My main point was I like the pay-per-view structure of NXT, where the takeovers always mean something. That's what I like. But
I knew what you. Sorry, I knew what you meant.
yeah, but still, you're right though, because I was talking about this yesterday. The karrion cross problem. Why did they let Keith Lee become double champion in the first place if they were just going to pair him with someone who's booked like a monster? Because you've booked yourself into a corner now. If you have karrion cross lose, then what was all that kind of build for, and where do you go next with him? And if you have Keith Lee lose, then his historic moment is kind of a footnote because it's just such a short reign that didn't really accomplish anything. So I agree with you. I thought either just have karrion cross take it off Adam Cole if that's what you're trying to do, and let Keith Lee dominate as the North American champion, or you have to go in with Keith Lee as the double champ, the world champion that he is now. And I think there's more miles in Keith Lee, and I really hate doing this, but I'm not completely sold on karrion cross in its entirety. I do like the act and Scarlett's performance and all of that, but I'm not convinced he's like the main eventer top player.
With respect, I'm going to have to completely disagree with you there. I think every time he comes out, I'm glued to the screen just because of his side and because of his build and his presence in the ring. So I do think he'll have what it takes to be a main eventer someday. I don't think it'll be in the next 5 years, but I do think he'll be a main eventer someday. Mate, your mic about again.
Can you hear me again?
Yeah. What were you saying?
Goddamn laptop. I think it's for me. It's not that I don't see it in him. Like he may well get there, but to me the presentation is more alluring than the substance at the moment for me.
Maybe I'm being biased because I watched him in Impact as to the Cross, and I loved him in there. So maybe that's the reason I'm being a bit biased. Mate, your mic about it.
I see. I think it might be where I'm having my finger. Sorry. I think it's more that I see more in Keith Lee. I guess I don't know. I guess that's all debatable. But either way, whatever they do at Takeover 30, it's gonna be interesting to watch either way.
It's not. I don't like Keith Lee. I just like karrion cross more.
Well, that's what wrestling's all about, my friend.
Yeah. See, I don't mind every conversation like that because we've obviously just talking, but I did not like when people started screaming at one another. I think, come on guys, it's only wrestling at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's it. And the thing about wrestling, which I always try and say, it's so subjective, right? Like, it's not like, but who do you support a football team?
I like football, but I don't support like a proper team.
Right, so I support Newcastle, which is a bad team. But my family are from there, so it's a long story. But objectively speaking, you can say Newcastle aren't very good. And that's fair because we haven't won many matches and we're a lower mid-table side. But conversely, for a wrestler, like for instance, what we were just saying, like I like the athletic big man like Keith Lee, and that's just to my taste. But that's not to say that karrion cross isn't good, or it's not to say that Drake Maverick, or who's the complete opposite, isn't good if someone likes that particular wrestler. So you have to appreciate and respect that other people like different things. It doesn't mean that they don't know wrestling or they don't know what they're talking about. That bugs me when people can't respect other people's outlooks.
Maybe it's just because I like that. I'm more of a story guy, to be honest, rather than. Don't get me wrong, I love a good match, but I'm more of a story guy.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the reason why. Because I can see that stories coming from karrion cross to the Keith Lee, but who knows?
Well, you say about story guy, like I think that's the whole reason I've gravitated to AEW over the past, because I just feel like they tell stories arguably throughout the show better than main roster WWE. I would argue that.
Well, with WWE, it's a bit more difficult because they have more advertisers to play. They have more commercial breaks, excuse me. So that ruined the show a lot for me. Like, I can't get through an episode of Raw without falling asleep half of the time. I think SmackDown's okay because it's only 2 hours rather than the 3-hour time slot. I think 3 hours is too long for pro wrestling. I can understand why they do it, obviously, for the advertising revenue and things like that. But I personally don't like 3 hour long episodes of Raw.
No, I don't either. I don't. And like you just said, unfortunately, the money speaks all, and you get more money for that third hour for the advertising within it. So you can see why they've made the decision. But I wonder if there'll come a time post Vince McMahon where someone says, is it worth us having this third hour for the sacrifice of our product? Because every wrestler that I speak to prefers being a part of the SmackDown in the 2 hours.
To be honest, I think because Vince, I got that machine run like a, because Vince run that company like a machine. I think when he does step down or when he does retire or whatever you want to say, I think it's definitely already exactly the same as what Vince does. Yes, Triple H will have more say, but at the end of the day, it could have been Stephanie that will make the final decisions, I would imagine.
Probably. I know Shane is more involved than he's been in a long time, but at the end of the day, in terms of like stock and things like that, Stephanie has the foothold that he doesn't. And yeah, Triple H being more involved, having seen what he's done with NXT, is fine with me. And, you know, I can see that, you know, maybe creatively, but like you said, in terms of operations, I would think that Stephanie probably will be the heir to the throne. And I don't think Vince will step down or retire. That man will die in the chair.
I didn't really do it.
You didn't want to say it, did you?
Because for me, I don't really like surviving when somebody can pass away.
No, yeah, no predictions here.
Obviously, you follow MMA or UFC. So what do you think of Raw Underground that they're doing? I personally don't really like it.
So my instinct is to not like it. The first time I heard about it or saw it, I was like, yeah, this isn't really what I watch wrestling for. I don't see how this speaks to a wrestling fan. Even if you're trying to attract an MMA fan, I don't see how it appeals to them because you would just watch MMA. I don't mind that they've thought outside the box and they're going for something fresh, and I will retain an open mind for the next few weeks or whatever, and I'll give it a chance. But I will say that the first impression it's made on me is not a great one, and I'm not, I feel like they've already basically done what they can do with it. Like, it just seems a very narrow idea, and I don't see how it helps the greater show.
My opinion, when you have something that's supposed to be real in a TV show that's meant to be predetermined or whatever you want to call it, yeah. What makes the wrestling in the ring less impactful than the fighting going on in underground, if you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it makes no sense, does it? Like, why would you have, it just makes you, and I've seen people say this, it just highlights that the product in the ring is more fake than we already knew. Like, and you're suspending your belief anyway. But now it's like, oh, actually, but there's some real fighting going on here in this back room. Oh, actually, and now you're going to go back to the ring and see some of that other wrestling stuff. And it's like, but this is the real gritty, hard stuff. The dichotomy is jarring. And
and why the fight? Why? Can you explain why they're fighting for?
I don't know. Shane McMahon's appraisal? I don't know. It is, like you said, there's no title, there's no nothing really. It's just beats me.
Do you know in the old movie, like in the 80s and in the 60s, yeah, when they used to have people dance for the king's entertainment. That's the vibe I get from Raw Underground. They're just fighting for Shane's entertainment.
Yeah, I think they are. And do you know what's funny is that Shane has always he's always wanted to like get Vince to buy an MMA promotion. Like they tried to buy UFC in 2009, and he's often said about so the MMA influence is very much Shane McMahon's idea. So really, this whole thing is just to repeat Shane. What are you gonna do?
I wouldn't mind if they had somebody like Shayna Baszler versus one of the smaller guys. Like, I think that would be quite interesting, but I'm just not a big fan of it right now. Because obviously people like Shayna Baszler and Matt Riddle can actually do MMA, but when you have people that can't really do it, I think it looks really corny, especially with all the jump cuts on the camera. I don't know how much you're into your films, but I can tell they do a lot of jump cuts.
Mate, the camera cuts are abysmal, and I've thought that even with Retribution in the ring last Friday on SmackDown, I thought it was awful. So that's a Kevin Dunn thing. It's an obsession of Kevin Dunn's apparently, but the Raw Underground and the whole setup, like you just said, is very. I think they're making up as they go along, and the production value of WWE in comparison with that is not a good fit. You know, I see they lost the what I'm going to call them exotic dancers. They lost them this week, but yeah, it's a strange setting, and it's not helped by WWE's insistence of. It's not even overproducing; it's just bad.
I don't know whether you follow Liv Morgan on Twitter, but she actually said she would bring the dancers back. Or so, I don't want to misquote her, but she did address that, and I thought she made a good point. I think equality should mean that you should be able to do whatever you want. Like if you want to have a girl dancing or a guy dancing, that's fine.
Yeah, so her and Mickey James both kind of made that point of saying, "Go on."
I didn't see Mickey James.
Oh, so they both basically said it's empower all women. Let them, if they want to do that and they're happy doing that, then let them. Which is it's fine. It's just to me it was jarring because obviously WWE haven't really done that in years now, and the way they're presenting the women, I guess, there's nothing wrong with sex appeal. Like I think that's become in wrestling, it's become almost like a dirty thought because of how the other way the Attitude Era was. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like day and night, the year 2000 to today.
Yeah.
But when you look at the women, I mean, I didn't see any harm in it. I wasn't calling for it to go, but at the same time, if WWE just put it in there to appeal to, it just seems a strange tactic.
But do you know playing girls were just dancers that they hired? Yeah, I do feel quite bad for them because if that was their only gig, obviously you're taking a paycheck away from them for no reason, really.
Yeah, I think that was the main thing. If it's wrestlers that they've just said, "Can you be dancers for this moment?" then it's like, that's a bit lame. But if, like you said, if they are dancers, then what's the harm? Yeah, I think a big deal was made of it, really, more than it needed to be. But it's all, like we said, it's all subjective. Some people want to see sex appeal in their wrestling, and some just want to see the wrestling.
But I'm just having one of the girls mention it because if I mention it or you mention it, we would have been called we would have been called perverts and creeps and every name under the sun.
We'd have been castrated. They'd have come for us, Anthony. We'd have been killed.
Yeah, so just two more questions and then I'll let you go, mate, because we've been on here for quite a long time.
Oh, yeah. Go on, go for it, mate.
So, obviously, this weekend, UFC, who you got in the main event if you're going to be watching?
Cormier. I'm going for Cormier. I feel, just to give you a very brief rundown, I feel that he dominated him in the first fight, and we've seen that DC can knock him out. DC was dominating him in the second fight, but then, of course, Miocic kind of worked the body, and he found success there, and that's the chink in the armour that he needed. So now it's like, if DC can get inside Miocic and, you know, work the body and do his close range stuff, he'll win. But if Miocic can keep the distance and work the body, he's got a chance too. So don't get me wrong, it's going to be tight, but I just feel like DC has more tools in his arsenal.
I personally agree. I just like a farewell story, and if he does retire, I want him to retire as champ.
Yes, yeah, that'd be great. That would be great. And it's like the career that he's had, you know, I just like DC anyway. But like you said, to go out on top like that, I don't think he even needs the third John Jones fight. I'd be happy to see him win the title and walk away. To be
honest, compared to some of his contemporaries, he's been a good impressive. He's been a good ambassador for the sport, hasn't he?
Yeah, excellent. And I like him on commentary. He's a big WWE fan, and he kind of talks about that a lot. He's just a likable guy. I like him.
To be, I'm gonna say one more question, but can I just add a quick one in there?
Yeah, you can add.
Do you think you'll have at least one match in WWE once he's retired? Maybe like a one-off sort of thing.
Oh, Cormier?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he'll work with WWE in some kind of way. And whether that be as a personality, because I do think he's got a career in commentating, whether it be MMA or WWE. But I think because we all thought we were going to get him and Brock in the octagon, I think we could get that in a WWE ring.
I could understand why they would do that. I thought it was Cain Velasquez person, but let's do it in Saudi Arabia. No, thank you. I would rather see team with Seth Rollins. Could either Seth Rollins fight into Lisa.
Yes.
It would be cool for team with Seth Rollins as a big monster heel.
Yeah, the monster heel DC. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd be all for it. To be fair, like we know, he's an Olympic level wrestler, DC. So I don't think it would be too much for him to pick up.
So my last and final question: how would you like to be remembered?
Oh wow, that's a good question. You know, like when I was making my way as like a wrestling journalist or whatever, I never knew I was doing it, if that makes sense. So I was just trying to be a better journalist all round. Then I was getting more opportunities in wrestling, and suddenly it became like my forte. And then now it's really cool when people kind of call me the leading journalist in the UK, I guess, for wrestling. Like, you know, I've got peers, but it's nice when people say that. And so to be thought of in the same breath as a Meltzer or Ryan Satin or Sean Ross Sapp is nice. I do appreciate it. I guess I would just like to be remembered for being good at my job. But you know, I take great pride in trying to be a nice, positive person. That's something, you know, if you see on Twitter, something I take very seriously is like people's mental health. You know, my partner has suffered with depression, and we have 2 children together. It's an ongoing battle that we do all the time. So that's something that I always try and open my mind to. I try and be respectful of people and their opinions. So I'd like people to always think that I was friendly, polite and respectful, and, you know, they were welcome with me. So, you know, I guess it's my job and my personality mirroring each other, I guess, would be nice.
So thank you for watching, guys. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. You want to promote your social media?
Yeah, I mean, you can find me at AlexM_Talksport. That's on Twitter and Instagram. If you do want to catch my work, of course, it's on talksport.com/wrestling. And my show is on Talksport 2 every Monday, 6 till 8. Time slot changes all the time, much to my annoyance, but that's where it is right now.
And if you want to follow me, it's at and7795. And we will speak to you later. Thank you for watching.
Cheers.